What's it worth? A common phrase auctioneers hear before the sale. But to estimate value, we need to understand some basic underlying principles. First, a property needs to have some fundamental characteristics, which are remembered by the acronym DUST: DUST, demand, utility, scarcity, and transferability. Is there a demand for the property? If not, it has little to no value. Is it useful in its current condition? Is there an infinite or limited supply? If every home in a neighborhood or town is for sale, what value could an individual property have? Finally, can it be transferred to new ownership? If a deed restricts ownership, it will most likely have a negative effect on value. It's important to understand that when you hear the term value, there are different types for different situations. There's market value, which is what a property should bring, but there's also assessed value, which is what the tax assessor has listed for value on their tax rolls. In many cases, assessed value doesn't keep pace, up or down, with market trends, as most assessors don't revalue property every single year. Perhaps the most important concept to understand is that value does not always equate to cost or the price you pay. The best illustration of this is to watch any number of the shows on television that value antiques, or follow those on their quest for unique items and their efforts to get a deal. Because real estate is not typically a once-in-a-lifetime find, the values tend to be more stable and predictable. But there are some basic overarching principles in economics that can explain various aspects of value. Perhaps the easiest principle to explain is anticipation. This theory is rooted in basic human behavior and really separates us as a species. If you believe, anticipate, something will happen, you will act or plan on that assumption. So if you and others hear rumors that a major retailer is looking to buy land near you, the value of the commercial land in the area will jump up overnight based on the expectation of future events. If the rumors turn out not to be true, then the speculation will go away and prices for land will drop significantly. The old saying goes, "Don't believe everything you hear," because if you purchase on a rumor, you may have to sell back down at reality. Another principle of value is conformity, which implies that maximum value is achieved when surrounding homes are in harmony. Not identical, mind you, but in harmony. It's easiest to describe the negative effects when this doesn't happen. You probably know one house that stands out in a neighborhood, whether it's the so-called artwork in the front yard, the paint color, or the year-round Christmas lights. If one house is not in harmony with everything else around it, the value of the surrounding neighborhood can be affected. What if the house is much smaller or larger than the homes around it? How does that affect value? There are two principles that cover these situations: progression and regression. Progression describes a small home surrounded by larger homes. The value of the larger homes helps pull up the value of the smaller one because it's surrounded by fancier and more expensive homes. The opposite is also true. If a larger home is surrounded by mostly smaller homes, then regression occurs. This would be responsible for a drop in value for the larger home because most people capable of paying more money than the neighborhood average would want to live in a better neighborhood. This brings us to the principles of contribution and diminishing returns. If you add an improvement to a property, it needs to add more than the improvement costs to increase your return on investment. A $20,000 kitchen remodel that only adds $10,000 in total value to what the property would sell for causes an actual loss of $10,000. You spent $20,000 and it only contributed $10,000 to the value. There is no rule in real estate that says if you spend money improving a property, you get that money back. As a general rule, you should really think twice before improving property beyond the price of what the average home in a neighborhood sells for, because several principles of value will be working against you. At some point, the property is worth its absolute maximum for the neighborhood, and additional improvements will not increase its overall value, which causes diminishing returns. A good example of this would be the Winchester Mystery House in San Jose. You may know this from television shows as the house with the stairs to nowhere, But Sarah Winchester, heiress of the Winchester rifle fortune, spent 38 years building her 160-room home. But most of the improvements didn't add any real value at all. What value does a staircase to nowhere have, or even tiny rooms with 13 windows to keep the spirits out? There is a situation when adding to something can increase value, and it's called the principle of plottage. Let's say you have a small commercial lot that's only 75 feet wide, which you've been unable to sell because there isn't enough space for parking or for a drive-through. If you combine your lot with the adjacent lot and offer these same companies a lot that's 150 feet wide, that will increase the possible uses and can increase the price dramatically. You could potentially get more than twice your original price by putting the two lots together. This is known as assemblage. We started this video by asking, what's it worth? Ultimately, it's worth what someone is willing to pay for it. But certain principles almost always apply in helping the buyer arrive at the amount they feel is a justified price. These may be real, or they may be the result of guesswork. But everyone has reasons for buying and selling at a specific price, and sometimes you don't know until later whose vision was correct. The next time you watch someone on TV being told that the item they bought for $10 at a garage sale is an antique from the 16th century that's really worth tens of thousands of dollars, remember, there's a seller who at the time believed it was only worth $10.